This happened to me and my friend, about 7 years ago, in the last year of engineering middle school. We are from Europe, non-English native speakers. We weren't the hardest working students, making jokes all the time, but we always got our work done in a relatively good shape, and in time. As the year gets on an end, the teacher approaches us and tells us that if we write the test he had for us golden, meaning we write in the correct answers and get a high mark, he's going to improve our final mark to 1 mark higher. We, of course, accepted, having nothing to lose. That very day I went to the store and bought 2 golden markers, with which we wrote the test. We did our best, and it would be probably enough to get the higher marks, but it was, as the teacher wanted, written in golden color. As we carried the filled-out tests to him, he looked at them and frowned. "Teacher, what's this?" Me, "You wanted it golden." Teacher, sigh. "Teacher, be gone." We both got the better marks. Smile. We always have a good laugh about this, and the teacher accepted his defeat valiantly and went on, as usual, with no hard feelings or anything. / grammar and spelling. I think this fits in petty revenge. Let me know if I am wrong. Years ago I lived in a classic Southern California apartment complex. The kind that is 2 stories high and all have balconies or porches if you are on the ground floor. At the time I worked in a grocery store and could have shifts that started as early as 3:30. When I had that shift on weekends, sleep could be hard to come by due to various gatherings around the apartment complex. I usually would not say anything about noise until 2300 hours on weeknights and 0 o'clock on weekends. A new couple moved in right above us and were incredibly noisy at all times. They hosted a party on Friday and Saturday night. Since they had just moved in, I decided to let it go and not be that neighbor. The next weekend it happened again, and on Friday night about midnight, I went outside and looked up at the people on the balcony and asked if they could quiet down. They mostly complied and I went to bed. The next night they were at it again, and this time when I went out to ask them to be quiet I got a lot of "frick you" and just go back inside. I did. I figured that I would wait for a better time to actually meet the upstairs neighbors. The next Friday afternoon rolls around and I can tell they are getting ready to have another party. They see me and start giving me grief and letting me know that I had better not complain, etc. The party wrapped up around 1:30. Saturday night was worse. They were still partying when I left for work at 3 o'clock. I heard some parting shots as I walked to my car. I knew I had to act, but I did not know. Then slowly a plan emerged and I knew what I was going to do. I baked cupcakes for the new neighbors. I waited until Thursday morning at 2:45. I took the plate of cupcakes to the neighbors. I went to their door and police knocked. The door opened and he was mad. He started to say something and then he looked up. He was about 5 feet 6 inches and I am 6 feet 1 inch tall. He was slight and I probably weighed about 175 pounds. I just put my best neighborly grin on my face and held out the plate of cupcakes. He regained some composure and starts to angrily ask me what I was doing. Then he said my favorite line, "Do you know what time it is? I have to get up for work in a few hours." "Frick, you are rude." Once again I held out the cupcakes and said, "I am so sorry, I just figured that you were always up at this time since I see you every weekend." It was then that it clicked in his feeble mind what I was getting at. He accepted the cupcakes. I fully thought that I would have to do this again, but he seemed to have learned his lesson. After that, most parties wrapped up by 0:30. Sophomore year of college, my cultural anthropology class professor gets the feeling that the class isn't doing the reading and wants to give us a pop quiz. He hasn't prepared for this pop quiz as it is right now. I think I want to do this kind of thing. "Professor, pop quiz. I want to see who has actually done the readings I have assigned you. Everyone take out a pen and paper. I want all of you to write one question and the answer to that question on the paper before I get back. I'm going to go smoke a cigarette." The class looks dumbfounded, like the professor has outsmarted them. Once professor left the room, I don't know what came over me. I stood up and said to the class, "We are all going to write the same question and the same answer and we will all pass this quiz." There was not a single sound of protest. I went to the board and wrote down what is the definition of. And then the words definition. Everyone copied it on their paper and I erased what I had written on the board. We all sit and wait for professor to come back. When he does, he collects the papers we wrote out questions on. He reads off the first paper. "Professor, what is the definition of?" Then he waits a little while so we can answer and then flips to the next page. Then he flips to the next page, and the next, and the next. He understands exactly what is going on and he says, with so much sadness in his voice that it almost broke my heart, seriously, he was a good professor and I loved the class. Professor, I guess everyone gets a 10/10. A lot of people have already raised questions about what happened to the guy behind this channel after he stopped uploading any videos. Half of them say that he is dead, but there's no official statement from his family or friends. This channel started on 24th of August 2014 and has about 1.5 million subscribers. He used to upload fingerstyle guitar tutorial videos of pop songs, some of which have reached about 9M views. His last video was uploaded on 3rd of July 2018, after which he just vanished from other platforms. His last big post was made on 5th of April 2018. It seems like he really is dead, but there's no evidence of that, just speculations. With that said, yesterday I came across a channel named Fingerstyle Club. Surprisingly, this channel uses the exact same type of thumbnail as Let's Play Guitar and uploads videos almost similar to the other channel. The only thing is that, judging from his accent and voice, he doesn't seem to be the same guy. Let's Play Guitar guy never showed his face on, although I think he has posted some pictures on his IG, and neither has this new guy. Fingerstyle Club uploaded its first video on 6th of December 2019 and made his first IG post on 2nd January of this year. As far as I know, Let's Play Guitar was the only channel which uploaded long guitar tutorial videos, I mean as long as 1 hour, and all of them were highly detailed, which is interesting because this new channel, too, has long and detailed videos of about 55 minutes long, something which I have never seen in any other guitar tutorial channel. Is Fingerstyle Club simply imitating Let's Play Guitar channel, or are they both the same guy? It's also interesting to note that several of his videos' comment section is full of people asking if he is the Let's Play Guitar guy, and he hasn't replied to any of them. Can someone find out what's going on here and what exactly happened with the Let's Play Guitar guy? Disclaimer: this happened 2 years ago and I was a host at the time. 5 p.m. on a Friday, a lovely little old lady, late 70s, possibly early 80s, comes up to the host stand and asks for a table for 6. She was alone but said her grown children would be joining her in 10 minutes. Our restaurant doesn't have an incomplete party policy and it wasn't that busy yet, so I gave her one of the good booths that seats 6 comfortably. The chaos of a Friday night continues and before I know it, it's 6 o'clock. Her children still aren't there. Laura, her server, offers to call them for her since the lady didn't have a cell phone. Lady takes her up on the offer and gets hold of one of her sons. He tells her that they'll all be at the restaurant in 15 minutes. It's now 7 o'clock. The rush has died down for the most part and this poor lady is still sitting alone. Laura has offered to take her order or even just give her an appetizer, but the lady refuses to eat until her children arrive. She told me that if the children didn't show up soon, she'd give that poor woman an appetizer out of her own pocket. Laura was a bit rough around the edges, but she absolutely had a heart of gold. 7:15 Those pieces of shit walk in the restaurant to finally join their elderly mother. Even though the booth is huge and comfortably seats 6 people, one of them grabbed a chair from a table and blocked the aisle by sitting on it at the end of the booth. The children are unapologetic. They tell their mother that she shouldn't have waited for them, WTF? To eat. No apologies in sight. Their poor mother looks ready to cry. Laura is steaming and seems ready to dump a platter or 2 of ribs on their heads. They ate quickly and left within an hour. Everyone in the front of house was giving the children death glares, even the manager. You could feel the hostility in the air. That poor lady deserves so much better. This happened some time ago. I work at a big bank, and just happened to be wearing a blue dress shirt and a black tie and sport coat when I was working. After we closed, I went to Walmart, and left my coat in the car. I am browsing aisles without a cart, looking to see if they have any good deals on video games and such, when I hear this lady freaking out. Obviously I look over to the short-haired blonde middle-aged woman we all know far too well. Karen must have seen me looking over at the ruckus and came storming over. I demand that you do something about your employees. I checked online for the Nintendo and it said there was one in stock. And now your employee is telling me it was sold. Me, that sucks, you should have bought it earlier. We don't have to hold anything for you. Karen, excuse me? No wonder your employees are rude. What is your name? This is completely outrageous. I am calling corporate. You just lost a customer. You're getting fired. Storms off saying unbelievable over and over again /. Me, to the original employee / wow, she was an idiot. Employee, thanks man, it happens more often than you would think. TLDR, A Karen thought I was the manager at a Walmart and tried to get me fired because I was wearing a blue suit from my finance job. I'm sure every last person here has faced this before. The customers who act like stores should be 100% stocked 100% of the time. I worked in a clothing store in the past, and one thing which bothered me is dealing with customers who want an item we don't have. Them, hey, do you have item? Me, we're sold out. Them, do you have any in the back? Me, we don't. Them, are you sure? Me, yes. Them, when will you guys get more? Me, I'm not sure, I'm not in charge of ordering merchandise, and when we do get shipments there's no guarantee we're getting every item in it. Them, but your website says you have it. Me, our website doesn't say our store stock, it shows our online store. Them, how can they have it but you guys don't? Me, the online store is a warehouse, they have a giant location to store every item in boxes. We're limited in space. Them, but I came in, a past date, and you guys had it. Me, chances are it's sold out in that time. We've had many customers shopping here since then. Some items I find out from the manager we'll have in the afternoon. Me, I spoke to my manager and they said we'll have this item in the afternoon once the shipment truck comes. Them, I can't wait that long. I came from another city, or even country. Today's the only, or last, day I'm in town. Them, do you know if competitor has the item in stock? Me, I'm not sure, you could check and find out. Them, don't you know what they have? Me, no, I don't work there. Them, aren't you affiliated with them? Me, no. They're our competitor. Them, but they sell the same things, don't they? First off, I drive a yellow Subaru Baja. Definitely not a cab, but I guess could be mistaken if you're not paying attention. This happened around 2013, back when I lived in Baltimore. My husband worked at a hospital and, while he usually walked home, we lived only 3 to 4 blocks away. Sometimes he wouldn't feel like it, and I would pick him up. There were always a lot of people picking up and dropping off, so there were always lines of cars waiting. And one of those lines was a cab line, like you would see at an airport. I got to the hospital early one day, and happened to get a spot right in front of the doors, but still in line, of course, not loitering. I'm sitting there waiting when all of a sudden my back door opens and older gentleman gets in and closes the door. I whipped around and just stared at him in complete shock. It must have been obvious on my face because he just stared back at me for a moment while the realization sunk in, and then goes, "This isn't a cab, is it?" A relieved that he wasn't trying to hijack me, laugh escaped me, and I said, "No, it isn't," while grinning like a fool. He started apologizing profusely while getting out of the car. I assured him it was okay, but I think he was so embarrassed, he just bolted. I felt so bad because I just kept laughing at the ridiculousness, and probably shock, of it. Just as he was leaving, a security guard came over. I rolled my window down, and he asked if that guy really just got in my car thinking it was a cab. We had a good laugh over it, and the guard said I should have taken him to his destination and pocketed the cash. It definitely made me feel good too that the guard was paying attention. I still laugh when I think about it. I had made the joke before that someone might mistake me for a cab, but never thought it would actually happen. Flat broke, and with limited work experience, I moved to my new college town and landed a job doing security. It was a super small company ran by an extremely stern former cop. He was extremely formal and very conservative. I was basically walking sunshine at the time, so our personalities didn't exactly mesh. Despite his obvious disdain, he hired me anyways. Within a day I was sent immediately to a medium-sized beverage factory. I hit the floor running. I knew a couple of the workers from my hometown, and had just met a couple of the guys at a recent party, so things started off great. Couple of weeks and there's a break-in by some kids in the back. No big deal, everything worked out. The beverage company general manager came out and personally thanked me. Over the next few weeks, the general manager has me do a couple of things for him here and there. Nothing special, just little odds and ends. Malicious compliance time. General manager comes to me outside and tells me, "Hey, I need you to tell your boss at the security guard company a few things. We need the night guard to stay an hour later for a week, and we need you guys to stop wearing the silly hats that go with your uniform. This isn't the army." I laugh and tell GM, "You've met him, right? He won't want to hear any of this from me. He is gonna call you." The GM shakes his head and says, "I don't want to talk to him, I want to talk to you." I relay the message to my boss and he's furious. He tells me in no uncertain terms are they to tell me anything about anything. He tells me whatever they tell you, don't tell me, I don't want to hear it. You have the GM tell me. It's basic chain of command, so of course the next day I see the GM and he now tells me about 4 other things that needed me to do. I explain to him what the boss said to me about relaying any information. GM smiles and tells me, well, tell him that we probably go with another company if he doesn't call me in 10 minutes exactly. I call the boss as instructed and he is furious already when he answers the phone. I told you, don't tell me anything, they call me, I don't run my company by you. I didn't tell the boss, as instructed, that he had to call the GM within 10 minutes. The boss calls the GM much later in the day and loses it. Tempers flared and 2 weeks later I'm working at the factory but under a new security company as the boss sold it before he lost his biggest client. Kavina and I were in a lab group together. We were studying animal behavior, specifically hermit crabs. We had 3 people per group for a 1 maybe 2 person job, so I had to invent things to do for each person. The third person in my group will be Ruby. So I, being the most hands-on, decided I would collect the crabs while Ruby, being the only other option of intelligence, would start and stop the watch as well as write down the notes, and Kavina would label each test tube 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Before giving them to Ruby. The stopwatch was for our experiment. Long story short, after being in different circumstances, how long does it take for them to come out of their shells while upside down, and compare that to size. Field collection went as smooth as it could go, with either me or Ruby telling Kavina what to do for each test tube as if it ever changed. We then took our 6 crabs back to the lab to get weights and run a similar experiment at the school. Ruby wanted to be hands-on, so she weighed the little guys while I entered their description, weight, notes and test tube number into the computer. Kavina would give Ruby a crab and tell me the number. All going well until we get to the 4th tube. Remember, we didn't go in order, just grabbed random one, so hint it wasn't number 4. Ruby tells me the weight. Me, okay Kavina, what number is this one? Kavina, this one doesn't have a number. I know this is false because I had to micromanage her writing on every single one. Me, well, what is written on the side of the tube? Kavina, this one doesn't have a number. Me, look at the tube in your hand and read me the number. Kavina, it has no number. Me, losing patience as it was Friday night and most other groups had finished and were leaving. Please look at the white side of the test tube where you wrote in black Sharpie a number so we can go home. Kavina, there is no number, just leave it blank. Now I know I was rude, but I was done. I should have just kept going and figured out which was missing, but I'd had enough of her. I meant to say things under my breath, but Ruby confirmed I said them louder than planned. Me, oh my gosh, give me that. Snatched it out of her hand. It's number 3. Are you kidding me? Kavina was silent the rest of the time except to say the last 2 numbers. We had 2 more weeks of school and she didn't show up for most of them. I felt so bad after, but sadly my temper got the best of me. Ruby had also snapped at her for something else I wasn't around for, so I'm sure she felt uncomfortable with us. She passed the class though, or at least she didn't retake it, so that made me feel like I wasn't a total jerk. Obligatory 18 months ago Tifu. This probably isn't that bad, but I fully consider it to be the most awkward situation I've ever put myself in by pure idiocy. I was lucky enough to be chosen to interview to a prestigious internship by final semester of college. It was a panel interview and I had never interviewed for anything more than a job at Big Lots. I was supremely nervous. They interviewed over 100 people from schools around me, and I'd been denied for way less important positions the semesters before. Well, apparently I was so nervous, and it was so cold outside that day, I'm bald, that I didn't even realize I was wearing the baseball cap I keep in my truck. I also had my AirPod headphones in, and didn't even notice since they weigh so little and don't have noise canceling or anything. So there I am, in business professional and a backwards baseball hat, sitting in front of 4 supervisors from the hopeful future employer, when I happen to touch my head and realize I have my hat on. All 4 of them smile at my realization and dread, and I deeply apologize. One of them, the director, stated, while we're on that subject, you have headphones in too. I begin having a full panic attack, and sarcastically say, well, I'll guess I'll be on my way then. Thankfully, they have a sense of humor and we finish up the interview. I have an awful drive home, and go to sleep that night wondering what I'm going to do for the next semester since I obviously didn't get the position. Somehow, I wake up the next morning to an email stating I've been selected. I was one of 6 interns selected out of 200 applicants. I have no idea how I got it, but 18 months later I have been working in the field since. TLDR, wore AirPods and a backwards Resident Evil snapback with a suit to a panel interview. Got the job. I'm the main opening driver at my store. Been doing this for about 6 years now. I showed up this morning at 9 for my shift to hear the phone already ringing before I can even get inside. For context, we open at 10 a.m. I get in and answer the phone. It's an old lady telling me that she still hasn't received her pizza yet and is wondering why it's taking so long. Things get weirder as we talk. Yes, why is my order not here yet? What is taking so long? Me, I'm sorry, but what time did you order? I just got into the store. I ordered tonight at 8. Me, reasonably confused tonight? Do you mean you placed a plan ahead order for later? We are not open yet. We don't open until 10. 10 o'clock tonight? Me, no. 10 this morning. I looked up your phone number and see that you do have an order in here planned for tonight. So when can I have my pizza? Me, just give me some time to get everything turned on and we will have your order out to you ASAP. We hung up. Got everything on and made the order. When I got out there, the front door was wide open and the inside was totally dark. I go up there with the order and she comes around the corner. She looks really old but greets me nicely and says how sorry she is for causing trouble. She apparently woke up thinking it was evening due to her house being covered in blackout curtains. She then goes on to say how her daughter and son both died last year and her dog died a couple months ago and that it's just her now. I kind of felt bad. Her house looked clean and her yard was well kept, so clearly someone has to be coming by. And aside from the time of day mix-up, she seems mostly there. She tipped me $4 on a close-by single pizza order, so not bad. After telling one of the midday drivers, they think she may have dementia. But aside from the time of day thing, the only weird thing about her was how casually she brought up the deaths of her kids and dog. Started out funny but took a dark and kind of uneasy turn quickly. I'm a 26-year-old female from Michigan, but I was 20 at the time this took place. I live in a safe town and I was working at a Walmart in the next town over, which is an even safer town. I worked midnights because I am definitely not a people person. Every day I would go home on my lunch to see my new puppy, who to this day has kept me going through countless problems in my life. Working midnights, there were basically no cars on the road when I was going home on my lunches. It was when I was 4 miles from work at a stoplight that I noticed a car had been behind me for a mile or two. I drive like a grandma and always go the speed limit, so there wasn't a reason for someone to stay behind me with clear open road all over. I keep on my way home, the car is still behind me another mile. I thought, okay, that's weird but maybe coincidence. I then had to turn on a side street with only has neighborhoods along either side for about a mile. You guessed it, the car turned too. I started to get worried but still brushed it off. Maybe they lived down that street. It was when I turned into my neighborhood I started to lose it when the car was still following me. I turned down my street, but didn't pull into my driveway because I didn't want to lead this creeper to my house. So I kept driving and took another way back out of my neighborhood. The car's still following me. Just to be positive, before I called 911 I drove through my neighborhood the same way as before and he followed again. I got back on the main road from the side street and called 911, crying because I was terrified, and explained the situation to them. I headed back towards my work. She asked where I was and I told her the crossroads, and lucky me, there was a patrol unit a mile up. Yay, the car is still following me. She stayed on the phone with me and told me to pull into the 7-Eleven at the crossroads the police were close to. The car pulls in after me too. The dispatcher lady told me to turn my hazards on so the police know which car was which. The car must have seen the police car and tried to leave. Not today, buddy. They stopped him on his way turning out. I was just parked in a spot crying hysterically. An officer comes over and asks if I know a Michael Stonebreaker. I say no, I don't. The officer continues to say he has a good amount of heroin on him and this isn't his first arrest, so he'll be going away for a while. Why did he follow me? What was his motive? The officer also said the creeper said he was following me because he thought I was his friend. Well, why didn't he pull up to me at the red light we were stopped at? Why wouldn't he have tried to get my attention somehow? That was a very terrifying experience for me, even if it doesn't sound scary to some of you. This taught me a valuable lesson though: please pay attention to your surroundings, day or night. Anything can happen anywhere, even in a safe town. I work at a financial institution. Right now we are not printing cards at the branch because the machine requires you be within 2 feet of a teller to put in your PIN, and well, That is the opposite of social distancing. I got someone on the phone today who had fraud on her card and had to have it blocked. I sympathize with her. It sucks to have to wait a long time for a card, especially when it isn't your fault that it had to be blocked. We have to mail it to her, and that can take up to 2 weeks to arrive depending on the postal service. She keeps asking if there is any way that she can come into the branch to get her card printed for her, though. Finally, I have had enough. Did you hear what happened to our ex-branch? No, what happened? Someone came in and they had COVID, they ended up giving it to our tellers. She is going to make a full recovery and nobody else in the branch got it, but we had to close the branch for 2 weeks to ensure the safety of our staff and customers. I'm sorry, when I say it's too dangerous, I mean for both you and us. Suddenly, she changes her mind entirely. God, I was being so selfish, I'm sorry. Of course that's what you meant. I can wait for a card, you're right, it isn't safe. All week I've been getting yelled at and abused by people who aren't getting their way, and even when they apologize it's backhanded, but this particular person was genuinely apologetic and I could tell she meant it. This gave me hope. We talked about how odd things are these days, and how we all have to change our expectations to keep up with the times and keep everyone safe. It was the best call of my week. I hope you're all doing okay out there, and I hope you all get more people like this person than not. Happy Friday. This happened to me last year. I was shopping at a hardware store, then suddenly 2 middle-aged guys come up to me. Them, do you know where this item is? Me, sorry, I don't work here. Them, I know, but do you know where it is? Me, I don't. Them, can you show me where it might be? Me, I don't work here, I don't know where it might be. Them, but around where might the item be? Me, I don't know. Maybe that corner, in the exact opposite part of the store I'm currently shopping in so they can get as far from me as possible and not realize I lied. Them, okay, walks away. Okay, so, this happened back in the summer of 2017 if I remember correctly. I had just started wearing dress shirts as a part of my regular everyday attire, just wanted to be a bit more presentable. I also wore jeans, black belt and at the time had a keychain. Anyway, I had to go to our local electronics shop. While I was there I ended up having to wait, because one customer was having a chat with the cashier and I didn't want to be rude. I started walking around the store and suddenly this guy in his I'd say mid-40s walks up to me and shows me a torn-off fridge handle. He starts laughing about it and telling me how it was completely fine the day before and suddenly it just snapped off while he was trying to open his fridge. Apparently he had decided to walk straight there after that to get a replacement handle. I, of course not realizing that he had mistaken me for an employee, figured if he wants to socialize, why not? We have a small idle chat and after a while our conversation shifts back to the fridge handle. That's when it hits me. Oh. Sorry, I'm not an employee here actually. Wait, really? I could have sworn I had talked to you before. Now, the boss appears from the back room wearing the exact same outfit as me. Dress shirt, jeans, black belt and a keychain. We had an awkward laugh at that point, and he walked off to talk with the boss about the fridge handle. I also joked about it later on how I should have asked for a summer job there since I already looked the part. I returned to wearing just regular old hoodies after that. Technically it was yesterday, but here's the story. We've been on quarantine and staying home, but we have let my oldest son's girlfriend come and visit every once in a while. She came over and set her keys on the kitchen counter, then they went downstairs to hang out. A little later, I got up from the recliner and went to the kitchen. I saw her keys lying there, but for some reason thought they were my wife's. They both have tons of dangling keychains and sparkly doohickeys. A sparkly canister of hand sanitizer hung from the keys, so I helped myself. I sprayed a generous portion of sanitizer in my hands before realizing it wasn't sanitizer. Even after I sprayed it, and it didn't come out like sanitizer, it was a pressurized stream, and didn't look like hand sanitizer, it didn't click right away. I smelled it, and was immediately overcome with the overpowering aroma of pepper spray. My wife came up behind me, her eyes started burning, and she screams, "WTF are you doing? That's pepper spray?" Velp. I go over to the sink, wash my hands as well as I think I have to, then rub my beard and face. Why did I do that? Next thing I know my eyes and whole face is burning. The kitchen filled up with pepper spray, burning the noses and eyes of everyone in the house. Afterwards, we all had a good laugh at my mistake. I ended up having to shower for like 45 minutes before the burning stopped. TL, Doctor grabbed a bottle of pepper spray thinking it was hand sanitizer. Pain followed. It was on January 15, 1981 when the body of 17-year-old high school student Mary London was found on a portion of San Juan Road in North Sacramento around 8 a.m. that morning. The 10th grade high school student died from multiple stab wounds and had also been sexually assaulted. She was a developmentally disabled teenager who lived with her foster parents at the time of her death. The person responsible for the homicide was named as Vernon Parker. Parker, however, will not be prosecuted because he, himself was a victim of a homicide in 1982. No mention in any media articles as to if Parker's murder is an unsolved case or not. One of the detectives in the original case is almost 90 years old and is ecstatic that there is an answer in the case. Please see comments below from Midnight Owl 1 as Sacramento police make an arrest in another cold case. And #X200B. We are now about 2 months into restrictions and events being cancelled. However, people don't seem to understand that the event being cancelled does not mean that their personal reservation has been cancelled. Just got this call. Caller, I see a charge on my card this morning for a volleyball tournament that has been cancelled. Me, looking up last name, yes, I see that you had a reservation scheduled starting yesterday for 2 nights. When you did not arrive, it was charged for the no-show. Caller, this is ridiculous. I am a nurse, and I have been on lockdown. I received an email that the volleyball tournament was cancelled weeks ago and assumed that meant our reservation too. How dare you charge me? Me, ma'am, even if the event was cancelled, you are still responsible for your own individual reservation. We are working hard to be flexible during this time, but you still need let us know that you will not be traveling. You booked through a third-party website. There is nothing on this reservation that tells me what you are coming to town for or that you are a nurse currently on lockdown. I am not able to just cancel reservations without hearing from you. Caller, you can't charge me. You should have notified me. How am I supposed to remember the reservation that I've booked? I refunded her charges, but man, are people frustrating. You are an adult. Please take responsibility for your life. It would be so nice if people would just listen, acknowledge their mistake, and ask for help instead of demanding that I refund them because this must be a mistake on our end when it clearly is not. She referenced that she had stayed with us in the past, and we are the only property she stays at in the area. I found one reservation from 2 years ago. I see I refunded $50 for her during that stay, but our system deletes notes after so long. I really wish I could remember what the problem was back then to flag her for the future. Alright, here goes. My property was commandeered by the county for the duration of the COVID-19 crisis. I've dealt with literal psychopaths, sociopaths and worse, who were placed here by county mental health services. I'm waiting until this is over to write those tales, but this one I have to share. One of our patients committed suicide yesterday. The whole team, what's left of us, took it hard, but the person that discovered the body is not okay after what he witnessed. My heart goes out to him. I too have opened a door and found a body. It's part of the job when you're a hotel manager, but it's never easy. Basically I want everyone to know that there are people to talk to. Call someone. Anyone who'll answer. You are loved. This isn't one specific experience, but an overall experience from a number of clients. Yes, we want System X, not System Y, even though you have told us repeatedly that System Y is much better suited for us due to our lack of supporting infrastructure. But you must understand that we have no additional budget for the infrastructure required for System X. What workaround can you suggest? Today is Monday, and we must insist on the quotation being received by Friday, although our own security procedures prohibit us from disclosing any details about the project to unvetted personnel. Our vetting procedure takes 2 weeks. Yes, we know our system is out of your 5-year warranty. Yes, we know we signed a disclaimer showing we chose not to buy the extended warranty. Yes, we understand that we are not entitled to any discount on replacement parts. But you must understand that this system was installed only 11 years ago and we expect you to support it, regardless of the fact that the damage was caused by one of our own unqualified technicians. You must provide us with replacement parts at zero cost within 72 hours. Tifu by showing my naked chest to 80 of my students and 4 of my co-workers. This happened earlier today and I am still dealing with the mental trauma associated with it. Edit/S. What better way to cope with embarrassment than let some random people hear about it? One of the teachers I work with was having a conference call with all 4 of the classes he teaches at once and asked me and a few other teachers if we'd join the meeting to help keep the class under control, since this would most likely be harder to handle than a normal class of 20 to 30 students. For the record, I teach high school. I live alone and was feeling lonely, so I said yes because I thought seeing some other people might cheer me up. At the moment, I don't ever want to see another person again. I opened the meeting link and got one of those "the host has not yet started the meeting" messages, so I sat back. I keep a mirror on my desk, and so I noticed that I wasn't wearing a bra. I distinctly remember turning off my video so that the meeting wouldn't start with me changing, but I guess that didn't happen? My desk is in my bedroom, right across from my bed, so I took a bra out of my dresser and sat down on the bed and took off my shirt. Nice time for a meeting to start. The class was close to full, and all the teachers were there, and I was shirtless considerably close to my computer. I don't think I'll be able to go back to work after this, and I plan on growing a beard and moving to a different country, preferably Greenland, and starting a new career. TL, doctor, I decided to change while waiting for a video call to start and ended up being shirtless when it did, in front of almost 100 people. My company has a contract to protect ATM repair techs when they need it, depending on location, time of day, etc. Last night I got to a site before the tech, saw the big red notice on the ATM screen, announcing it's broken, put an orange cone on one end of that lane and parked on the other end, trying to make it clear that the ATM is closed, then waited. While I was waiting, a car drove up, stopped 50 away, then slowly pulled up to my car. Disapproving driver glared at me. I kindly rolled down my window and explained that the big red notice on the ATM screen is saying it's broken, and the repair person is on his way. She pulled forward, looked at the screen, read the "I'm broken" notice, then tried to tell me that it can't be that bad. He has approached me twice with a scheme where he says that he can use the COVID situation to help fix my credit. I don't even have bad credit. I'm 19 years old and never have had a credit card. He said for $50 he can tell me how to fix it. I follow him on Facebook because I'll know when he's mad at other people for robbing him and vice versa, as we have had people snooping in our backyard to watch him before. He has posted a video on how he can help people fix their credit because the virus. He looks like he's 40 and breeds dogs to sell in his backyard for money. He recently has been fighting about when he will get his check with his wife in the front yard. I can't wait to leave for college at the end of the year, hot face. I was in 5th grade. I was special needs when it came to math, so was one other kid. So during math lessons, instead of teaching us, she sat us in back with multiplication flashcards. Without fail. I was an avid reader, so when she gave us a reading assignment and then gave us reading time in class, I read through it in a few minutes and went back to my book for the allotted time. She ripped me a new one over reading my book and told me to do the assignment. I told her I had read the story. She told me that I was black, so that meant I couldn't read that quickly. I argued with her, so she sent me to the office. I explained to the principal why I was sent there. He took me back to class. The teacher said if I read the story, then I could take the test. I agreed. And passed with an A. She had to eat her words. My mom got me transferred to another class. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. Our regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A coworker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about TJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Back in 2008 to 2013 I worked at a waffle place. I had several years experience at this job. Worked third shift most of my time there. I was young but knew how to deal with the 2 a.m. crowd on all levels. Now a common thing in the food industry, when there's multiple ones in your town, they borrow people. This was the case for this night. So one night I'm lead, that meant I came in at 9 and stayed till 6 a.m. My half came in at 6 p.m. and left at 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. She was an older African-American woman. I, at the time, was a 22/W/F. So instantly at 12 a.m. she got in the weeds bad. I helped her every way possible. Even doing her tables 100%. Most of the people knew me anyway. They knew the unspoken rule: if you leave the money on the table, regardless of who waited on you, the tip went to whoever's the table was. So they would hand me the tip instead. I kept it in a separate pocket, for when she was cut I'd give it to her. I wasn't mad or trying to steal her tips. I just didn't have the time to explain to anyone and everyone what was going on. She started to catch on, but instead of politely asking me what was going on, she literally shoved me several times and went into my pockets and stole all the money. The place went crazy. People ran around the counter to stop her while others locked the door, thinking it would keep her from leaving. Several more called the cops. That all occurred in less than a minute. My cook called the unit manager to let her know what was going on. Now, I'm short and at the time small. But I'm not one to be pushed around. But I knew there was an absolute no fighting rule. It's an automatic fire. I had just had a baby, and my ex-baby daddy wasn't working. I knew even if I wanted to I couldn't fight back. The cops arrive and take our statements. I know all of them, so they're laughing as hard as possible. She doesn't think this is funny. At one point she tells me she's going to get her family to come back and shoot me. Unfortunately for her, she did this in front of cops. They asked me if I want to press charges. Nah, I'm good. I just want my money. My unit manager has arrived at this point. She fires her on the spot, even though she isn't even employed at that store. I was just so afraid of being fired. My manager gets my money back and sends me home and lets me have the next night off. I come back the next day for the meeting. She's watched the video, is laughing so hard she's crying. I didn't get fired and she actually was so nice about it all. So that was the night I was assaulted and robbed by my own co-worker. Had a lady call up a few days ago and she needed to do a withdraw. Cool, no problem. Our lobby is closed due to COVID but all the drives are open. She tells me she doesn't feel safe and would rather do this over the phone. I ask if she want me to send her a check. Nope, she wants cash. I again tell her that she had to come to a drive. Her, do you seriously expect me to come to do branch? Me, yes. I sorta wonder what she was actually expecting. What has been your strangest encounter? COVID related or not, let's hear them. Years ago, I was working in the customer service department for a satellite TV company. Well, one day, a lady calls me because her bill is much higher than she expected. $300 higher. So, I offered to go through the charges and fees with her in detail. She accepted. Well, it turned out that $300 was all from pay-per-view movies. Very expensive, R-rated movies. And they were all ordered over an 8-hour period of time on the same day. She was quiet for a moment and then said, I see. She proceeded to tell me that the only person home that day during that time was her 16-year-old son, who was supposedly curled up in bed, in another room, too sick to go to school. Right. Too sick to go to school but not too sick to get up and order $300 worth of movies. She thanked me and said she would be talking to him when he got home from school. Oh, I so would have loved to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, That's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. Back in the summer of 2017, a group of around a dozen peers pitched in for a house to get away and celebrate a birthday. A basic residential area around semi-rural lake near Shelton, WA, the house had a separate garage with a few beds where myself and a few others were sleeping that night. The house sat above the lake with a deck as well as a little pier down in the water. After a long day of cooking, drinking and playing games, it was time to crash around 2 a.m. With more people than beds, some were on couches and the floor in the living room. Folks had been drinking fairly heavily and were out cold. Around 3:30 a.m., I woke up with a need to use the bathroom. As I'm putting on pants, I notice out the window the long diffused shadow of a person move in some light on the street outside. Thought nothing of it. Somebody walking their dog. Made the walk across the driveway with the key in hand and notice the door is unlocked. I go in to find a friend checking their phone in that drunken daze after only a short amount of sleep. Confused, he whispered, "Weren't you just in here?" They ask. I say no, and they ask if anyone else from the garage was out of bed. I said no again, and my buddy shook it off, albeit super confused. Confused myself and a bit amused, I did my business and returned to bed, locking the door behind me. The next morning, all were awake and in the main space cooking breakfast and enjoying the sunshine. Two of my other friends, a couple, asked if there was any open windows in the house overnight, as one of them was convinced a draft opened their door from a cracked position. Their bedroom was at the back of the house, past at least 5 people sleeping in the living room and 2 other bedrooms. There was one open window, but no others in the house, so I'm not sure about a draft. The guy I had spoken to during my bathroom trip piped in to ask if they know what time this happened. They said right around 3:30, right when he thought he saw me walk through the house and I saw the shadow move down the street. We all got chills when all these details came to bear. It was then that somebody brought up a Twitter or Facebook post about somebody reportedly breaking into homes in the area for months. That story is linked below. We never reported anything as we were not sure that this is what happened. Turns out the guy was a pervert, and liked to watch women sleep. Now, all 3 of these events could totally be coincidence, but looking back these years later, I'm convinced that our rental was victimized by this creep. Nobody in our group was armed and I'm not sure if there was any security system. I also am fairly confident I'm not the one who left the door unlocked. TLDR, renting the cabin with a group of friends, a few of us independently saw what we believed to be an intruder in our house. Hopes this fits the rules. My mom was a 5th and 6th grade school nurse for a few years. She had a lot of stupid requests from kids wanting to go home. This one was pretty funny. Kevin came down one day complaining about a stomachache. My mom went through the usual questioning. "Have you eaten anything weird lately?" Kevin waits a while and says, "Well, I did eat some uncooked toast this morning." My mom explains there is no uncooked toast, just bread, but Kevin is sure about it. He argued for a while before he just begs to call his mom for her opinion. The mom just shrugs it off and asks my mom to give him a Tums and to send Kevin back to class. Okay, so this was like a year ago at my old job and this is pretty brief. I worked at a grocery store chain that is all over the place in my state as a cart pusher. Don't worry, I have a much better paying job now, not working now due to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. I was going into the back of the store because of, I don't remember to be honest, and I see this older lady pushing a cart follow me in. She had her purse in the cart and she was just wearing regular clothes. I very politely told her that she couldn't be back here because it was employees only, and guess what? I found out that she actually worked there when she started to scream at me like I just told her I kicked her dog into the sun and spat on her newborn grandchild. She went on this rant and I honestly just left while she was freaking out because I was not dealing with that. I mean, I'm autistic and I was never that easy to upset on that level. I told my supervisor and one of the store higher-ups talked to her or something. I saw her around but I never talked to her after that, I still have absolutely no idea what she does outside of work around the cold foods section, but she at least started wearing an apron. I really have no idea why she got so upset. I didn't really say anything rude or anything. I even apologized for the misunderstanding at one point, but she still freaked out. Maybe she had a bad day, but it was still not acceptable for her to scream at me. I'm glad I just left. I do not handle that situation well at all, especially when someone is screaming at me. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a long-time referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Tifu, this just happened. Background, I have gallstones and am getting my gallbladder removed next week. Story, I haven't been very hungry lately due to stress related to global pandemic. So I didn't eat much today besides a small breakfast burrito. I had a great day today, went on a socially distant walk with my DH and kids, came home and ordered food for dinner. My dinner came with French bread and olive oil for dipping. After a day of activity I was actually pretty hungry and went ham on that bread and oil. Ate around 1 to 2 ounces of olive oil. I haven't even finished dinner before I started feeling cramps. They just kept getting worse until I had to rush to the restroom. First thought was oh no, I got the corona. Overreact much? Second thought was must be food poisoning, but DH had everything I had, minus the copious amounts of olive oil. Third thought is food poisoning usually takes longer, So it's probably my gallbladder. Dear God, I'm dying, I may have to have emergency surgery. Google searching gallstones and olive oil. Recent studies have shown that moderate consumption of olive oil may actually lower your chances of developing gallstones. An ingredient in olive oil evidently helps reduce cholesterol levels in the blood and gallbladder. Next article. Although olive oil can act as a laxative. Wait a minute. Google's olive oil laxative. 1 tablespoon of olive oil, taken on an empty stomach in the morning, may relieve constipation for many healthy adults. People should not take more than 1 tablespoonful, however, as this can lead to diarrhea and cramps. Well shoot. Drive. I ate copious amounts of olive oil on an empty stomach and thought I was gonna die. I feel like there are a lot of these stories right now, but I still feel the dread anyway. I was in a call with my girlfriend about an hour ago. We can't be at each other's houses right now due to the virus, so this is all we have. I decided to go get some food from the kitchen and I tell her that I'll be back soon, and I hit mute on the phone call and put my phone in my pocket. I then get to the kitchen and start talking to my mom. The conversation somehow leads to my girlfriend's family, where we both then spend about 10 minutes talking shit about her mom. I don't even know why, but it was just brought up and I said some things about her that I definitely would not tell my girlfriend. My phone is still in my pocket when I get back to my room. I set it down on my table when my girlfriend decides to speak. She instantly brings up one of things I said about her mom about 10 minutes ago. I just froze, realizing what had happened. I check my phone and lo and behold, the mute button isn't selected. I try to apologize, but after that, my girlfriend quickly says goodnight and hangs up. I still don't know what to do. FK this. Doctor, didn't mute my microphone, girlfriend heard me talking shit about her mum, I feel awful. Is anyone else having difficulties with the face masks? I'm partially deaf and I rely on lip reading a lot. I'm in Wales, for uni, so not from here originally, and I can't always tell if someone is speaking Welsh or just mumbling in English even without the masks, but it's just darn near impossible. Is anyone else having these problems, even if you aren't deaf? People are coming up to me and asking me for things, and I have to ask them to repeat it more than 5 times. It's even worse when they're distancing, as they rightly should TBF, but they won't move the mask briefly to speak. I can barely hear my partner when she is stood right next to me. I guess I just don't want to be the only one struggling with this, and it's making my job so much more difficult when people get huffy at me too. TLDR, thousands of shop-level employees got laid off based on a computer algorithm the corporate office designed that doesn't factor in seniority and gives preference to certain employees. Store managers and corporate office employees were not affected at all by these layoffs. Please feel free to ask me any questions, I have lots of free time now. And #X200B. I work at a Take 5 oil change, same thing as Jiffy Lube, for 5 years and was terminated yesterday along with 1,000 other lube techs. All the stores only have 1 to 3 people working there now. Nobody at the corporate level got let go, all the store managers are still working, and the rest was left up to a computer algorithm. I took pictures of our company's organizational charts in ADP before they locked me out, showing that corporate employees were not affected at all. The regional manager, who is in charge of over 60 stores, actually said that corporate's computers picked which assistant managers and lube techs would stay and which ones would be terminated, with preference given to some assistant managers. I have no say in the matter. Apparently experience wasn't a factor in this algorithm. Lube techs who had worked there for more than 20 years got laid off, while some techs who just started last year are still being employed. In the letter they sent out to everyone, they stated that all employees terminated will be considered for rehire subject to work history. They aren't even guaranteeing their jobs back, they're basically telling us we need to fill out an application again and hope for a callback. Does this seem pretty messed up, or is it just me? How can a company lay off people so easily without care? It sounds like they are using the current events as an opportunity to clean house and start fresh with new people once things settle down. I can't imagine a company anywhere that lets a computer tell them who can stay and who can leave during a layoff. I think what bothers me the most is that I know very well the expendable shop-level employees are only getting laid off so the company can afford to pay the management and corporate employees. They still have 10 employees on payroll making $70–80K a year for unit growth and development. This company is not doing any growing or expanding right now, couldn't they let some of those people go? Thank you for taking the time to read. I just really wanted to vent my frustrations. If what they are doing isn't illegal, then it is certainly the shadiest thing I have ever come across. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got a deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35. Pizza was deep dish when given toppings, so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all.